Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining me today and taking time from your busy schedule to attend From Scarcity to Abundance, a summit presented by Financial First Aid to guide entrepreneurs and anyone really to move to a new level in their personal and or business life. We have quite a bit of information to cover, so let's get started. We have the great pleasure of having Chris Felton on this presentation today. He's an Amazon best-selling author, seven-figure entrepreneur, and owns a financial services firm, which he started in 1999. Chris leads and trains 200 agents across the U.S. that have helped over 17,000 clients. He's achieved top 1% status in a company of 60,000 agents. He's been featured in U.S. News and World Report, MarketWatch, Yahoo Finance. He's an international speaker and best-selling author. He's committed to sharing his story and lessons learned from being on the brink of financial ruin and divorce to building one of the most successful financial services firms in the country. Thank you so much for being on this summit with us today, Chris. How are you?
I am better than ever. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, thank you. And so, for our audience, who my introduction was brief, but just give us a little bit of a backstory about your situation and what you're doing.
Yeah, no, I've been an entrepreneur since 1999. I left corporate America behind and I built this business. And um, I've wrote a book with my wife. She actually wrote it, but because of the title, she had to put her name on the title, called Couples Money. Right? She had to put my name on the title. She wrote it because if it's not for a woman, it never gets done. Right? Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
right. Um, and then yeah, I got two kids, 22 and 19, and just came out with my new book in February called Think and Grow You: How to Get Out of Your Own Way and Level Up Your Life. And it's really my story of getting stuck. We all get stuck. It's okay to get stuck. It's not okay to stay there. And just what I did to get unstuck and make some changes in my life around all certain topics, especially money,
Hmm.
because I was in a pretty bad spot. Even as a financial advisor and a CPA, I was $250,000 in credit card debt, and I was doing stupid stuff and staring and facing down my second divorce, and it wasn't good. And the common denominator to all the problems was me. So
Okay,
anyway,
okay.
anyway,
So, just kind of give us an idea of how did you get yourself into the situation that you were in, and then what happened to make it turn around to make you go ahead and move forward into a better situation.
yeah. I mean, how I got myself there. I mean, I believe it's not one big thing. I believe it's the dying the death of a thousand cuts. And that was me. And really, Vera, it was just my mindset around money.
Okay, okay,
and
great.
and so we live in the richest country on the planet, and 96% of people never reach financial independence.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not because they don't know what to do, they don't do it.
Mm-hmm.
If you Google the word money, you're going to find plenty of stuff. And
Yeah.
so here I was as a CPA, financial advisor, pretty successful guy, but I was broke.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of what got me to wake up was I had to pay my ex-wife $5,200 at the beginning of every month in alimony and child support. I
Wow.
had a 6,000 square foot office lease that I couldn't afford. It was a mess. And I had handed control of our financial affairs to my current second and last wife, in case she's listening, uh, Marlo. Marlo, out of really a flash of intuition, because she wanted to manage the money in our house.
Mm-hmm.
But I told her, oh, I got it. You know, us guys, we know what's best. But based on results, I didn't have it. And so I gave up control to her. It was the single best financial decision I ever made.
Mm-hmm.
And so she finally realized what a mess we were in. She tried to get me on this, I call it a four-letter word called a budget, right? And I know it's 6 letters, but anyway, but it's a 4-letter word called a budget. And I didn't want to look at it. I didn't want to see it. And one of my favorite quotes is optimism and delusion sleep in the same bed together, right? So I was massively delusional that things were going to get better, but I wasn't doing the things necessary. So fast forward from that conversation, about 6 months later, I was out of money and I had to pay my ex-wife $5,200. So the only path I could see was I had to come home and convince my wife to give me her money that was separate from us, because she was smart enough not to commingle money with a broke dude. I had to convince my wife to use her savings to pay my ex-wife. So that it didn't go very well. And she threw her purse at me. What kind of woman, Vera, throws a purse?
A pretty mad woman.
A very pissed off woman throws her purse. But not only did she throw it once, she threw it 3 times. And then started counting on her fingers. That's not a good thing, right? And then I asked her, why are we still married? And total silence. She went upstairs to go figure out the answer to that question.
Uh-oh.
And there I was alone with my thoughts. And it was literally, I could just see all the dominoes falling in my life from my failed first marriage.
Mm-hmm.
And what I realized, Vera, one of my favorite concepts is we don't get what we hope for, we get what we expect.
Mm-hmm.
And most people hope positive but expect negative.
Okay.
So you don't get what you hope for, you get what you expect. So I actually expected my marriage to fail.
Mm-hmm.
And I was doing that with my second one. My little kids were small. They lived in Atlanta. I was in Colorado. I hadn't seen them for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
So wasn't doing the dad thing very well. I was drinking a lot. I was a mess. And then I realized that I was the common theme to everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized in that moment, and we'll talk money, but I had to take 100% responsibility for the mess that was my life.
Mm-hmm.
And so that wasn't easy. Most people don't want to do it, especially this day and age. People want to play victim, right? They want to validate, excuses, justify why they're not winning in their lives. And so the next day, thank God, my wife decided to keep me. And which was pretty miraculous because, during her stress and strain and struggles, it would have been very easier for her to focus on the negative in me and go on out the door.
Mm-hmm.
But she didn't. She
Wow.
focused on the good things,
That's
which
good.
caused me to focus on the good things. And then we sat down and she said, we're not getting divorced. We're not declaring bankruptcy. We're going to stay together. We're not getting jobs. We're going to figure out our business. And so we had access to wealthy mentors. So she was able to interview them to figure out what they do, what they think, but really it was on me to change. Okay. And my whole thing was I was going to figure out how this kept creating broke. Mm-hmm. And she said, what are you going to do about it? I'm like, well, I'm not interested in changing. I'm committed.
Okay.
And that's important because most people are interested in a successful life. All right. They're not really committed. And unfortunately, in this day and age, and social media has exacerbated it, we believe we can get something for nothing. Right. And so what happens when you're interested in financial success, you'll hit a roadblock, you'll hit a limiting belief, you'll hit something, and then you'll just pick up, and instead of following through, you'll take what I call a chicken exit, and you'll just hop to the next thing, the next thing, the next thing, the next thing. And I just told her I was committed. And she's like, what does that mean? I'm like, how an Olympic athlete treats their sport? I'm going to treat my mindset, mainly first, my mindset around money, like an Olympic athlete. Meaning I was going to get up every morning. I was going to study. I was going to read. I was going to visualize. I got world-class coaching for 4.5 years. You would have told me to stand on my head for, an hour to change my life. I would have done it. And so It didn't happen overnight. It happened over time. That's one of my favorite quotes of Mel Robbins. It didn't happen overnight, but it happened over time. And that working on my belief system and that commitment to change and grow and developed, transformed us. Our income went up over 7 figures. Just we got debt free. Just all these amazing things happened to us. But most importantly, Vera, my personal transformation happened. And right when I was kind of in the beginning of this, I read a quote from Billy Graham. He said, once you get your attitude straight around money, it'll help straighten out every area of your life.
Okay. Okay.
And so by me focusing on freeing up my limiting mindset around money, I changed spiritually. I changed physically. I'm 52. I got better energy now than I did 20 years ago. Relationships. I'd like to think I became a much better person. Like everything changed, everything transformed. And so anyway, so that's kind of the story there.
And what were those limiting beliefs that you took and you really took charge of and changed? Because this morning I happened to see that you sent out "Take Captive of Your Mind." I saw that was what I guess your weekly or your daily affirmation was today. And so, how did you do that?
Well, so first is, I hired a coach who he was financially independent, he was financially free, right? And because, at least for me, but for most people, left to our own devices, we either do nothing or we choose comfort.
Right.
And my favorite quote on comfort, it's at the beginning of my book, from author Jeff Shore: a life spent seeking comfort results in an entirely uncomfortable existence.
Oh, that's good. That's
Yeah,
true.
a life spent seeking comfort results in an entirely uncomfortable existence. And so I had to get a coach who was living the results that I wanted and trust him. And he had to get me outside this comfort zone that everybody talks about. But one of the first things he taught me was money's a relationship.
Okay.
And your relationship with your money, it's either functional or dysfunctional.
Okay.
So having been broke, my relationship was dysfunctional. And so what he taught me, and another good friend of mine, Jonathan Mansky, who was a coach, taught me, and I actually covered it in that video today, me plus a thought equals a result. And so if you don't like your result, there's you, and then there's your thinking. And so part of it is, what am I making up about that? So we're
Okay.
going to talk about money, but this could be relationships, this could be health, it could be anyway, right? What's the story I was making it up? And I actually shared in my book. So he had me, I got a green journal. He said, you no longer have a money problem, you have a money project. I talk about that all the time. Problems are viewed in a woe is me, I'm a victim, right? I'm helpless. Adversity hits, we fold. Projects, we view projects totally different, right?
Yeah.
We'll see,
Right.
we'll hopefully see a project through the end, right? We'll face adversity, but we'll go through it. He said, you don't have a money problem, you have a money project. And also he said, have grace, because you've had a thought and thoughts around money for decades. It's not going to spin out overnight.
Right.
So but the first thing was to grab that journal, my money project journal, and then just write the word money at the top of the page, and then just write down, what do I make up about that word?
Okay.
Right? Because it's not even a limiting belief. Lisa Nichols calls it a lie that we tell ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So it's a lie. So money's hard to make. Money's hard to keep. Rich people are crooks. I got that from my dad. Right? The biggest determining factor of our financial success, this is from an author named Margaret Lynch that wrote a book called Tapping into Wealth. The biggest determining factor of our financial success is the vows that we made to gain acceptance into our family at a young age.
Okay.
The vows that we made to gain acceptance into our family at a young age. What does that mean? We buy their BS
Right.
to get their acceptance.
Right. And then we get stuck in their thoughts.
Yes,
We get
yes.
stuck with their thoughts.
Well, and what happens is that stuff perpetuates for generations.
Right.
Right. So my parents bought the crap from my grandparents, and they bought it from great grandparents. So it just goes all the way down.
Right.
And one of my good friends, a guy named Steve Siebold, wrote a book called How Rich People Think. He said his studies of 1,300 self-made millionaires and billionaires, he's got the longest running study. He's interviewed over 35 people, or 1,300 people for the last 35 years. And he said all his self-made millionaires, billionaires, people he followed, he's like, they got the same garbage too, right, from their family. And then what happens is you grow up, and then society villainizes wealth.
Okay.
Right. All movies, right? I'm dating myself. Gilligan's Island, right? Right. Thurston Howell and his wife. How were they portrayed on that show?
Right. They were the snooty people that no one wanted
snooty.
to. Yep, they
yeah,
didn't
good.
want
I'm glad you said that. I've never used that word when I bring this up. Snooty. I'm going to steal that. Snooty, right? Snooty, aloof.
Yeah. Yeah.
Didn't care, just cared about themselves.
Right. Yep.
Right. Spider-Man movies. The Green Goblin is a billionaire. Right. The movie The Titanic, like the worst portrayal of wealthy people. Right. They're upstairs in their tuxedos, scowls on their face, hating each other, screwing each other over. And meanwhile, down beneath the boat, right, the broke people are, dancing on tables, having the time of their life, and they're good people.
Right.
So
right.
so we got a lot battling going on there, right? And so you got all these messages, and what Steve's studies show is eventually the self-made millionaires and billionaires call a timeout and do what I did, which is sit down and just go, what am I making up about it? Hard to make, hard to keep. Rich people are crooks. They make money on the backs of poor people. You can't take it with you. Won't make you happy. Doesn't grow on trees. I mean, la 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 la. So I wrote down, I shared all that in my book, my story, and I'm like, yeah, I finally met the enemy, and it was I. And
yes.
And it was no secret that why I was broke. I was literally running a marathon with a 20-pound bowling ball. So I didn't beat myself up over it. I just said, okay, that's it. That's what's creating. It was liberating for me. And then it was like, okay, what do I need? What's the new story need to be? And I share that in my book too. But it was like, well, money makes a good person better and a bad person worse. So I was messed up, but I was a good guy. Money's a scorecard of value that I'm creating. So if you're in a business, I don't know how else you keep score with the value you create than money. So I just had some affirmations and some things that I was telling myself that was positive. And so that was it. So anytime my mind wanted to go to the old story, I would just say, no, I need to shift it to the new story. I need to shift it to the new affirmation, and I need to work on that. And I had to clean up the root of the problem, which ultimately solved the symptom.
Wow, that's powerful. That's powerful. And as you said earlier, looking at you from the outside, you would think that, you being a financial advisor and a CPA and all of those other kind of accolades, that you would be that person that would be the least person found in that situation that you were found in. Like, who would have thought someone with your credentials would have been there? But really the root of the problem was the whole mindset about money.
Yeah.
That's great. And so how long did it take you to transition from that problem, that area, that whole mindset, to a better mindset, and then restructure your finances? I know you said your wife was a big part of that, but how about you yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I I can't remember, like, when did the transformation take place?
Mhm.
I mean, within 6 to 9 months, I mean, things started changing,
Okay, good.
right?
Good, good.
But one of the things my wife and I had to do is we had to sit down and we had to be like, okay, what do we want?
Mhm.
Right. And that's like the most beat up topic in personal growth and development. Like, what do you want? Like everybody talks about it. What's your why? What do you want?
True, true.
Which is super important. But what happens is people hear that and they sit through a conference like this and they're like, okay, I'm going to get clear. And then they walk out of their house and then a squirrel runs by them. And then they're like, okay, I'm going to go catch that squirrel.
Mhm.
And then once I catch that squirrel, then I'm going to sit down and figure out what I want. Right. And then we get trapped in this weapon of mass distraction called our
Yeah,
cell phones. Right.
yeah, yeah.
So we never really get clear. And I spent a lot of time in my book talking about, you got to know what you want. And so my wife and I sat down and I'm like, what do you want? We're
Mhm.
$250,000 in debt.
Mhm.
It's a mess. And she said, I want 100,000 in savings. And after I went, because we were at zero.
Well, actually, you were in the negative because you said you were two
Yeah.
hundred fifty thousand in debt.
Well,
So,
yeah, I mean, we were in debt, but on the asset side, it was zero, right?
okay,
And so
okay,
the liability side was massive, but on the asset side, it was nothing. And and what she found out interviewing people for couples money is they said, hey, you want to get out, you want to get debt free, but are you focused on debt or are you focused on creating wealth?
oh, okay, okay.
And for
That's
me,
fair.
for
Mm-hmm.
me, that changed everything
Okay, yeah.
because I always focused on debt. My mom always focused on debt. And this isn't about being stupid about debt or becoming an ostrich around your debt. It's about creating wealth. And he said, if you can't save money, you'll never get debt free. And so we got psycho about saving money in a good way. But what we spent a lot of time on was why do we care? Why does it matter? Why?
Okay,
And because most people think goal setting is logical, but no, it's an emotional thing. It's all emotional. You got to have reasons. Everything you do in life, you're hoping to obtain a feeling. And so we spent time going, how do we want to feel? Well, we wanted financial relief like oxygen. So everything we were doing was all about financial relief.
mm-hmm.
So why did we want to have that money saved? We wanted to stop fighting. I wanted her not to be so stressed. The stress physically that was happening to her from the financial, mess I'd created was, I mean, it was physically impacting her.
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't seen my kids. I mean, it was, so we created this long list of reasons and why that's powerful is if you're trying to get from point A to point B and you have a Ferrari, which is whatever your game plan is, your business, your Ferrari's worthless without gas in the tank.
Sure.
And gas in the tank is really your reasons. So that's the single greatest goal her and I ever set was that one.
Okay.
And then we had a weekly check-in. Are we close or are we further away? And then the last thing I'll say about Vera is I had to have a better relationship with money.
Okay.
Right. And what happens is people are like, oh, it's just $5. Oh, it's just $10. That's a relationship. If you had a friend or a spouse that said, oh, it's just Vera, that relationship wouldn't last.
Right.
So it wasn't a love of money, it was a healthy respect for it.
Mm-hmm.
So we had to quit dying the death of 1,000 cuts is what we had to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to stop eating out. I had to stop going to happy hour. I had to stop doing this. Or business owners are like, oh, it's a business deduction. Okay, so spending $1 to save 30 cents. Sorry, that math's never going to freaking work. It was really just about finding these little leaks.
Mm-hmm.
And T. Harv Eker from his book Secrets of a Millionaire Mind said, until you start managing the money you have now well, you will not see any more money.
True. True.
And so it was about, right. And if you can't take care of small dollars, you'll never see big dollars.
Okay.
And so it was about us, right? We did a 90-day cash diet,
Okay. That's a great,
right?
great way to put it. Okay.
Yeah. So we ate what was in the house because we had plenty of food,
Uh-huh.
right? We stopped eating out. We drank cheap wine. Anyway, whatever it was, instead of doing lunch with my clients, I did coffees. I mean, you name it. So we just started taking care of the small dollars, staying focused on
Hmm.
the main goal, meeting every week to talk about our progress. And when you know you're on the right path, that's when you get the dopamine hits in your brain.
Right. That's right. Yep. You start getting that rush, like, okay, great. I'm seeing some progress. I'm getting some traction. And once you start getting that traction, it just kind of can take off. Oh, wow. Great, great, great information, Chris. Thank you so much for being on. Actually, I'm waiting for my next presenter, and she hasn't come in yet. So, if you'd like to continue, I wouldn't mind keeping you on if you're okay with that.
Yeah. I can go for a bit. Yeah. And
Okay,
then,
great.
yeah,
Thank you. Thank you.
yeah.
So, after you started seeing this kind of traction happen, then what was kind of like your goal, your next goal? Because the first goal you said was, okay, instead of thinking about not having money and the debt, I'm going to start focusing on, or I should say we, because it was you and your wife together, we're going to start focusing on making money. So you went on this diet, this money diet, and the results that you started seeing, what kind of results were you starting to see?
Yeah, I mean, well, the first, so the other thing is so we had the 100,000 goal, which
Hmm.
seemed like Mount Everest, right? But we focused on base camp one. We didn't sit at the base camp. We didn't sit at the bottom of Mount Everest and look up at the mountain. That's what most people do,
Hmm.
and then they get overwhelmed because
Hmm.
then their fight or flight response
Right.
kicks in. Journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first step.
Hmm.
So we got focused on the first 10,000,
Hmm.
right? And so that was the hardest amount that we'd ever saved.
Uh-huh.
So we got focused there. Um, and then and then once again, it was literally it was the weekly meeting, the weekly check-in, the weekly reminders,
Hmm.
because we as humans, we drift, right? We drift. We set great intentions, but we drift, and so we need reminders.
Hmm.
And one of the things I did was I also, every morning I would visualize a story, an image. My wife and I, set some bigger financial goals past that, and we said, okay, we hit that goal. We're golfers. We're going to Pebble Beach, you know, one of the most beautiful places on the planet, right? And so I would visualize, being there.
Okay. Yes.
And so that your ability to influence your subconscious mind with emotion and feeling is the biggest determination of the success you'll have in your life. And so the handing over that picture of being there, because he said, hey, once we hit this bigger goal, then we're going to go on a trip. So I always think about, what's my reward for hitting that goal?
Okay.
And
Okay.
then I'll go visualize an image being there,
Oh, okay. Great.
right?
Hmm.
Past the goal.
Hmm.
I could spend a whole hour talking about how that stuff's happened. Right.
Wow.
I
Wow.
believe that a picture in a mind will become an actual picture that you can hold, or a picture on your phone,
Hmm.
if you just persist. But what happens is people go see it and they'll visualize an image, dream it. And this is what I would do. Then I'd be like, well, where is it? Why is it not instant manifestation?
Uh-huh.
And then they get discouraged, right? And it's easy to get discouraged,
Hmm.
but discouragement's like a meter, encouragement's like a meter. It's like a gas tank, right? And for me, like this morning, I woke up and I was a little discouraged. Well, I had to do something about that. I had to fill the gas tank up. So I had to image and read my Bible and visualize and pray and do those things to fill my encouragement meter up.
Great, great,
Right.
great, great
To give you the
information.
juice to keep moving. Yes.
Wow. So, well, I see my second presenter has come on. I
Okay.
appreciate it. Chris, thank you so much for your time and your energy. How can people get in touch with you?
Yeah.
Or your social media?
Yeah. Just my website's chrisfelton.me is my website. So, and people can also email me at tgy at chrisfelton.me. So they can email me there, and I send out a weekly, like 3 to 4 minute video of a concept, which is what you watched this morning.
Mm-hmm.
That weekly email is called TGIM. Thank God it's Monday.
Okay.
So one of the things I had to do is I had to change my view on Mondays
Uh-huh.
versus Mondays always suck to Mondays are always awesome. So I want to help people start their week right by
On a
seeing
positive note.
the TGIM. And ever since I've told myself the story that Mondays are always awesome, Mondays have always been awesome.
Thank you so much, Chris. I appreciate it. I hope to see you again soon, and maybe I can have you on my podcast.
Yeah, I would love it. Just let me know, sister. Would love to do that. Okay.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Okay. Take care.
Starlett, how are you? Let me see. There we go.
Yes, I'm well. Thank you so much. How are you? How's
I
everyone?
am I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Hope everyone is good. So, my second presenter, Starlett Moore, she's on a journey to owe no one anything except love. And that comes right out of the Bible. And to leave a legacy for her children's children. Mind you, she didn't say her children, she said her children's children. So that means she's going to have a nice little string of wealth going on there. She invites all of us to travel on the journey with her. Her mission is to educate at least 5 million Christian women around the world on how to invest their money to create passive income and build wealth, so that they can enjoy life every day without financial stress, worry, or anxiety and retire well. She teaches biblical financial principles as the foundation to money management and financial planning for long-term wealth building. And as a result, her clients are able to increase their cash flow, give generously, and live a life with far less stress and far more enjoyment. Thank you so much, Starlett, for being here. It's great to see you, and you're on a mission, and I love your mission.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, that's amazing, isn't it?
It's amazing mission. I mean, the idea of 5 million Christian women, I just want to influence 1 million. I'd be happy with that, but 5 million, that's great. So tell me, how did you get started on this journey?
Yeah, so several years ago, I'll just say it's probably been over 10 years, like when I really, really got serious about my finances. So what happened was, or what had happened was, so I was going into my second marriage, and I was like, okay, and it's real tight with the money and all that good stuff. So I had some lessons learned from the first one. So I said, okay, I need to really get control of these resources, so that I don't have the challenges of, financial discussions into this second marriage. So the first one was awesome. However, being the independent woman, you can't tell me anything. So here I'm doing some lessons learned. So on this journey, I signed up for a biblical financial class. Again, I was going in there to learn about money, but what really happened was I began to draw closer to God. So he really just, it was a touching moment, right? In regards to, it wasn't about the money. The topic got me there, but it was really about a personal experience with God. And so that was my transformation. Prior to that, I do well with money. I've always been investing, but so I know the worldly way of how to earn money and how to invest it. And I learned how to budget and how to pay off debt. I learned that very early on in my early 20s because I had a great mentor. But this was a transformation. And when I got an opportunity to really understand what God's word says about it, and because it transformed my life, I just started on this journey of helping the others to really understand and get into studying God's word.
And what is your background? Because you said always been good at making money. So what is it that you did before you started on this other journey that you're on now?
Yeah, so my professional background is technology. So I have a technology background in project management. So implementing systems on an enterprise level. And so I have that knowledge of investing, all of those things personally, but also to see it from a systems. And so in
Mhm.
this journey, God showed me how I could use those skill sets to show
Right.
others
Hmm.
how to be able to build plans, have big visions, go after the mission, a project and get it done. So
Hmm.
yeah, it's taking, and in that journey, right, of learning about stewardship and learning about, who I am in Christ, in that journey, that's when I was able to understand how we all have these different gifts,
Hmm.
and then skills and abilities, and then how we can work together to get, have a social impact or to advance his kingdom. So that's what happened.
Wow, that's fantastic. It's
Yeah.
interesting that you said the project management piece because Chris was just on earlier and he said the same thing in terms of as long as you don't look at your finances as a project and your goals as a project, you're going to keep on repeating like the same mistakes over and over again. So, how have you been able to use that project type approach to helping people, especially women, manage their money better?
Yeah. So for me, like you said, first of all, to get to 5 million, right? It's just like in 5 million Christian women. God gave me the formula for that. So I know from math, right? So numbers don't lie. And just mathematically, I have it in my head. But with that said, it is okay. It's the vision. It is what's the vision? It's the mission, and then who you get to collaborate to help you to achieve that. But also, who are you going to serve? So again, that's growth, right? You take the picture, you take your eyes off of you and you
Mhm.
place them on God, and he said, okay, God, how are you going to use me? Because that's what I was like, I want to know, Lord, how are you going to use me to get to your 5 million beloved women? We talk about women, we're talking about women, their spouses, their children, and their community. So we focus on women, but the impact is
Right,
holistic.
right, yes, and it's exponential because once you can impact one woman, you you impact her whole family. So that's fantastic. So, what type of investments do your clients get involved in?
Yeah, so when I talk about, okay, so my mission is for us to create passive income.
Hmm.
And so with that, I just make my suggestion is, the portfolio gets to be built as, the importance of having your own business,
Hmm.
because you can generate income that way, and then put in systems and processes where it's automated. The other I suggest just to explore investing in stocks, investing because those are businesses who just started off just like you and I, except they're public, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
So if you understand, really like get into the numbers and understand that,
Hmm.
how to read the financial statements, then you're able to come to the table to be able to negotiate, to ask questions. So I encourage, because my first true investments were investing in my retirement savings and learning. Then I learned individually about different companies. And then the third one is, of course, real estate. Because what I found in my own investment portfolio, right? So we're accumulating, but do we have cash flow, which is key. So the three areas that I advise women, have your own business. And when I say have your own business, you can be the startup, but it's a business that take care of your family. So my business take care of my family, and learn to invest in the stocks, the stock market. Yes, the market goes up and down, but it's been along for a long time. And it helps you to be able to manage your emotions and etc. And then the third of course, is cash flow, real estate. And as you know, it's just the breadth of real estate is amazing. And so those are the three areas that I encourage my women to community of faith to really look at, because and then to shift. Let's think like business owners and let's think like investors. So we're moving from the line of being spenders, borrowers, right? Consumer mindset to look at the bigger picture.
Yeah, and that's quite a challenge for you to help people overcome, especially, and I don't mean to sound racist, but in the Black community, it's a lot about let me see if I can get that new whatever, so I can look like I'm doing better than I actually am. It's great to have assets, but the assets should be assets that are actually making you money, not just something that you put on to look pretty.
Exactly. And so you're absolutely, that's right. We're going through a transformation in our mindset.
Right,
But I
definitely.
also think, to your point now, when I just look back, even at the women that I'm coaching, my age range is, I get from 40s on up to 60s, right? And
Right.
so my sweet spot is really about, I'm looking for the ones between the 48 and the 55s. You know why? Because you still got some little bit more energy.
Yes.
And we did that, right? Been there, done that. We passed the whole, hopefully. You passed the keeping up with the Joneses. We understand because we have life experience. Now it's about securing your future.
Right. Now, how do you get because you said you have kind of like a three-tier approach. How do you get the people that have been employees to get to thinking about becoming an employer and having their own business? Because that's a jump for that's a jump for a lot
Oh
of
yeah.
people. A lot of people like to have the security of knowing they get a paycheck every week.
Yeah, and that's a tough crowd, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
I introduce the concept to them, show them in black and white, and then they get to choose. Are you in or you're out, right? And
mhm,
so what happens is, now I've moved to my focus is I'm focusing on entrepreneurs, those of us who are already risk taking, but
right,
now we're ready to do some things, right? So you're absolutely right. That's a different, because you got to have a mindset. You got to be wanting to take the risk,
yeah,
calculated risk, and you got to
yeah,
be okay. There will be some failures. So if someone says, well, can you guarantee me? No, I can't guarantee you, and this is not the right place for you. There's nothing guaranteed in life. You just got to take the risk, get the lessons learned, project management, lessons learned, and tweak and move on.
mhm,
So absolutely. But I get them. Yeah, I was like, well, and also I just tap into what it is that God has given you,
mhm,
and what is that vision, what is that purpose, and you get to do it now. So they take on the challenge, they get the moving, and then I have other partners who focus on those who are still making the transition from employee to entrepreneurship.
mhm, mhm. Yeah, because that's I know that's a tough one, and it's a
Yeah.
scary one as well. So, your company, the International Society of Women Investors, now, it's international. So, what other countries are you in besides the U.S.?
Yeah. So what happened is, my clients are international, meaning that, like, for example, one of my clients is from, I think she was from Brazil, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what God is showing me is that even they're local, they're in the United States, however,
Oh,
they're from different countries, and they
okay,
want to be able to take that information to go and share with their loved ones.
okay, okay.
Yeah. So again, when I get at 5 million is all around the world. So right now, my clients have been women who are international sisters from all around the world.
Wow, that's fantastic. And
Mhm.
and then what types of businesses are you seeing a lot of people getting into, like right now? I mean, the pandemic was very stressful for a lot of people, but it actually opened a lot of doors for other people for them to start businesses because, as you said earlier, nothing's guaranteed. So that 9 to 5 that you think that you're secure in, they can lay you off anytime, or something like the pandemic can happen. So how do you kind of get them to have a feel for, okay, there's going to be some challenges, but maybe if you can stay the course, you're going to be okay. That because that's
Yeah.
the biggest thing that I think people have a problem with.
Well, so I recommend, my recommendation is an online business.
Okay.
So before the pandemic, I was doing this as a chair of stewardship, focusing on, career, helping members, find jobs. So I learned a lot before COVID happened
Mm-hmm.
from other people's story. And
Uh-huh.
so then also, when I was in this role, I had been working for my company and my particular as an employee for about 16 or 17 years. So then I started hearing the stories of people unable to find employment, and then I
Mm-hmm.
could see the impact from in the church. So my recommendation, because I've been online, I was online before
Mm-hmm.
the pandemic, is an online business
Okay.
because it gives you access. First of all, the cost is less than a brick and mortar,
Mm-hmm.
and you can solve a solution and offer a product online, and it's global, right?
True.
Um,
Yeah.
and
Mm-hmm.
so that's my recommendation. Every household should have an online business,
Wow.
and
Okay.
every
That's how you get to
every
5 million people.
that's right, exactly, every and it's possible, but to your point, you can't quit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So like just investing, you're planting seeds. You're planting seeds, and then the harvest will come, and the
Mm-hmm.
harvest will take a moment. So my recommendation is, we could be just like Amazon, and I've done the study on Amazon. You started, Jeff started in the garage,
Yes.
but
Yeah.
look at how he's built it. And
Yeah.
I believe when I read or someone told me about it, it took him 10 years. He just focused on one thing, which was selling books online. One
Yep.
thing for
Yep.
about 10 or so years.
Yep.
Then he ventured out once he mastered the system.
Yep.
So that's
Exactly.
why we get to stay the course, stay the
Mhm.
course, and then stay in the course. You get an opportunity to invest in yourself and get with these great coaches and mentors and professionals who can help us, build out and grow and scale.
Wow, that's true. Yep, that's true. Yep. And even Steve Jobs, same thing with him. He
Yeah.
started out just in a garage, tinkering around with his program, and then Apple was created. So, yeah, I think that's really really valuable to get people, especially women, to understand that it's as you said, as you say, you're on a journey. It's a journey. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. It's
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's great. That's great. So how can people reach out to you, Starlet, to get access to all the services that you offer?
Yeah, so you can reach me. I do a challenge. I start off with a challenge. You can go to www.starlettmore.com,
Mhm.
and that's StarlettMoore.com.
Mhm.
And I do a 5-day intensive Women and Money challenge. I say intensive because it really is intensive.
Uh-huh.
Um, where again, to help her to be able to see where you are today
Mhm.
and to really get it on black and white, and
Okay.
then where you want to go.
Okay.
So then we move from that 5-day challenge, it's kind of like, are you in or are you out? And, you know, it's because we don't have time to play. So it's either you in or you're out. And I just heard even we have a rise of COVID, right?
Mhm.
So we have got to move, and we need to move swiftly. So we
Mhm.
do that. So www.starlettmore.com. Or if you want to email me, info@starlettmore.com. And
Mhm.
so I'm here. We gotta go, and we need everyone, as we call it, all hands on deck, because we got to do it together and
Mhm.
in collaboration. But we don't get to be wishy-washy here and there and everywhere. We got to get focused. And I'll
Mhm.
just say this to Vera: in doing our collaboration, we get to do it the right way the first time. So I
Good.
encourage my women, right, to learn to invest in themselves and to invest in professional services. So we need to be in collaboration with our uh, lawyers, right? Because we're learning new language, we're learning contracts, we're learning partnerships.
Right.
And so I tell my ladies, if you want to do this, you're going to do it the right way. If you're on this journey with me, right? And we get to invest in professional services, professionals, and we make the cost up front. Because in project management, you make your investment up front, it will cost you less. As we move on the journey, the cost is more if
Right.
you have a lawsuit or anything like that. So
Right.
part of that is you get to set aside some dollars or go make some money to reinvest in yourself, because all of this is new to all of us.
Right.
And this is where we bring this amazing professional team together to help us to achieve our goals, and we're helping them to achieve their goals as well.
Wow, fantastic. I'm loving that. I'm loving that. So thank you so much for being on this summit with us today. A wealth of knowledge, getting people to, especially women, to understand that there's a three kind of tier thing that you're promoting, and I love that idea because I think everybody should be an entrepreneur, but that's just me. So that's a great place for us to connect, and I will move on into my next presenter, which is Miss Edna J. White. Hello, Edna. Let me see. I have to unmute you, don't I? Speaker, there we go. We can't hear you, Edna. There we go.
Hello, everybody.
There we go. There we are. There
Hello,
we
everybody. How are you?
I'm hoping everybody's doing
How's
well.
everyone?
So let me just
Good,
let me
good, good,
give your
good.
introduction. Edna is a 25-time author, a motivational speaker, a community advocate, and a 20-year real estate professional and gifted inspiration who shares her heart through speaking, teaching, and coaching you to love yourself out of trauma into a direction of happiness. Well, that's great. With with international audiences, Edna encourages pushing past your pain into success of life, relationships, and business. He continues showing up in the world as a featured guest on numerous radio and TV shows. And when on her downtime, she is traveling, loving her family, and having fun. You know, that just sounds like you, Edna. I've gotten to know you a little bit better in these last few weeks. So please share with us all of the things that you're doing,
Yeah,
and you're
that's
doing
good.
so much. Go ahead.
Oh, goodness. Look, I'm not going to tell you all that. I'm
Okay.
not going to do all that. We've all did some amazing accomplishments. So I just, no,
No.
too
Okay.
much.
Okay. It's too much.
So I want to thank you for having me. Really, thank you for having me. I think I can talk about this subject really good. So I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah.
I'm really
Yeah.
excited.
Tell us how you
So
from where
go
you
ahead.
were to where you are now. It's an interesting
Oh, goodness. Okay, so I've been thinking about this since you told me, and I said, now how did I get started? Um, but one day I was at a community event, and I was part of a project for a housing new apartment complex that was going in. So we were going to break ground, do the little thing and shovel,
Yeah.
pick the dirt up or whatever. And so there was this young man with me, and he had this calendar. And he said, "Oh, you can have this calendar." I said, "Okay." So it was an African American calendar. And the first page I turned to was, "How do you start saving?" So I don't know how the universe knew that I was like, "Oh, God, this saving thing is getting me," right? So it said on there, save 30 cents a month and see what you do. Just 30 cents. And when I did that, I was like, whoa. So I didn't look in, you had a piggy bank, so you throw it in there, you don't look in it, right? You don't desire to count it. But
30 cents a
what I
month or
did,
30 cents a day?
no, he said, it's a month. So it
Wow.
had to show me something. So I know that it was kind of like creating the mindset I needed. Because listen, I was in a place where I was like saying, I can't save anything. That was my words.
And
So the
Starlett and I were
universe
just
knew,
talking about that.
right?
We
Yes,
spend,
the
spend,
universe
spend.
knew. Yeah, the universe knew that, hey, she's not going to be able to hear $30 a month. She wasn't going to be able to hear that. So when I read that, I said, okay, I'll do that, All right. And at the same time, I was working on, in my journey, how to manifest, right? How to manifest things into existence. And so I kept on doing the 30 cents. I didn't put any more. I put in 30 cents, right? So as I'm doing this, I'm doing manifestation. So I says, okay, I would do my meditations in the morning. And I said, okay, today I want to see a penny, right? Every time I see a penny, I'm going to pick it up. Every time I did that, I found a penny. And one day I had 50 cents. Now, yeah, we walked past the pennies, but I remembered what I affirmed in the morning, right? So every time I picked it, I had 50 cents. I'm like, whoa, if this works for a penny, let me do a nickel. Let me do a nickel, right? So I got excited about the
raising
nickel
our
thing, right? I really
expectations.
got excited.
Yeah, raise our
Yes.
expectations.
Listen, I'm human, so I had to make sure this worked, So listen, let me do the nickel. Okay. I want to find a nickel today. I did that. Now, I'm not going to tell you the next day I did a nickel. I had to make sure that penny thing worked, I had to make sure it worked. I had to put in the work, okay? So it was like a couple of months that I just kept doing that. But then I said, okay, if I can do this I'll do 5 cents. Happened again. All day long, I'm finding nickels. Then I said, okay, 10 cents, right? Did that. The one day said, okay, I was a little iffy about the dollar, right? Dollar, dollar float down the street. I was a little iffy about that, right? So I said, okay, $1, okay. And I wasn't visualizing $1 floating down the street. I was visualizing change. The first time I pulled into a parking lot, somebody must have dumped all their change out because it was on the ground where I parked. I was like, okay, now I'm writing things down, right? Like now I'm getting so excited about this now. Now, if I can do that, how do I get from the scarcity mindset? Okay.
Right.
Now, my life has always been that my mom didn't teach me great financial habits. All right.
Yeah.
And money was used against me as in my childhood sexual abuse. So I didn't have a good relationship with money. I had to gain all that back, right? So I said, whew. So it wasn't hard, like Starlett said, it wasn't hard to get money. It was my problem was it was hard to spend it. Because as a little kid, I would make money, wash it, and put it under my mattress. Never use it. Never use it, right? Because I was scared that something was always going to happen.
Okay.
I was scared to hold money. I was scared because my mother, when she got money, she didn't teach me that, our lights are off most of the time. We're living in a gigantic house with lights off because she wanted to go buy a dress. So I was always scared to either use it or use it the wrong way. You know what I mean? So I always had it. Like I had abundance of it. I knew how to get it to put it away. All right. So, but in learning all of that, I learned that I could manifest things with the power of my speech, right? With the power of what I speak, but it also had to line up with the power with my mind and the power of my heart. They all had to line up. So Fake it to the make it wasn't working for me. That was not working for me. It didn't work. And you're talking to a kid or a person who had lost their creativity as a young child because of childhood sexual abuse. So I had no creativity, no imagination. So for me to imagine, forget about it. Okay. Mm-hmm. So everything had to be a picture, had to see it, had to get in it. Right. So I took the power of manifestation to the next level. And we know that scarcity means that you don't see it, hear it, smell it, know it. That's what scarcity is. You don't know what it looks like. You don't know what it looks like. You could want something and have no idea what it looks like, what it smells like, what it feels like, no idea, but you want it. And that's asking for something amiss. So I wanted this car. I was like, I want this car, and it's going to be my retirement car, right? So I found the car I liked, and I was like, okay, how am I going to do this? So I was like, okay. So I said, I know I can't put it on a piece of paper and look at it every day because it just didn't work. I didn't feel it. It didn't vibrate to me. So I went to the car dealer, gave him my license, and I'm driving around, right? I'm driving it around. Now I'm feeling the vibrations of the vehicle, right? I'm feeling it. And now I'm like, yeah, and I'm like, yeah, I look hot in this car. Like, yeah, this is the car. This is the car for me, you know? And I was like, okay, all right, universe, this is the car I want. Now, you would think I would have made that happen that day, right? Nope. It was 1 year. 1 year. Okay, 1 year. I got all the money, went to the dealer, and I says, I want to buy this vehicle. And so it was up for a certain price. I said, no, this is what I got today in your shop. And he says, well, I got to call the manager. So I looked at his desk. I said, you are the manager. Why would you need to call somebody else? So I get myself up. Now I'm walking around with this money in my pocketbook, right? Like, oh, like, how like the lady from Golden Girls, I got the money in my pocketbook, right? And I just start to walk out. He said, wait a minute, wait. We can make a deal. So not only did I get the car at the price I wanted, but I got the car, and I paid part of it off because I wanted to build my credit, right? So I paid half, and then I got a 2.4 interest rate.
Wow.
Beautiful, right? Yeah, it was beautiful. It just worked out so well. But I had to manifest it. I had to say what I wanted. So I never backed down. So I learned that you can't back down. If you want something, it's there. Right. Abundance is no limits.
Right. Mm-hmm.
That if I would have went to a car dealer and they said, no, you're not getting that interest rate. No, you're not getting this. I would say, okay, next. Because I know that there's abundance out there. Somebody is going to accept this deal.
Right.
So that's the difference between scarcity, that I'm scared to ask, don't know what to ask, don't know what it feels like, don't know nothing, but to the point that now you want to change that. So how do you, working with the stuff, the money and the things that you have, your skills, your abilities, because I'm in real estate, so I have the ability to weed out all the other fluff stuff and get to the real stuff and pull it out. Mm-hmm. So I have that ability to do that. Okay. So you use what you have to make your life better. Right.
Right.
You learning how to work in real estate, you have to know about credit. Well, we know credit has a lot to do with our self-esteem. If that's not right, you're not fooling nobody but yourself. It's not right. When I started built my credit up, bought my first house and second house, and then I was like, I'm too old to buy another house. I'll rent for a while and I'll start investing. So there's decisions you can make for yourself that doesn't always fit in everybody's mold. That's the other thing. In a scarcity mindset, you are going by somebody else's code.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Being original. You be original and say, hey, I don't want that. I want this,
Right.
And you then are now asking so affirmatively that the universe has no doubt what to do for you. No doubt. But when you're like, I don't know, and when you're doing all of that, you're in the quandary. So the universe is going like this with you. Like, what do they want? You got to know what you want, right? You got to know what you want. That's what the universe does. You know, God assigns the universe to answer whatever we want. But if we don't know what we want, we're not going to get it. We're not.
That's what Chris said. Yeah, it was at the very beginning. He said the same thing.
Yep. You got to know what you want. You got to know what you want. So one of the books that I wrote is called The Big Ask, ASK. And these are questions that I went through in my life that I had no idea. Like literally, what do you want to do for your career? Well, somebody told me to be a nurse, right? Somebody told me to do this. But what do you want to do? You know, what do you want to purpose to do? You know, I hate the word hustle. I will tell you that I hate that. So when I built my second second business to become the full-time business, right? When I started building on that, I never said I was going to hustle, because I think of hustle as those hamsters in the wheel, and they're running and they ain't going nowhere, and they so tired, and they go and eat that. That's what I think of hustle as. Because when you hustle and you're looking this way, and everything beautiful is happening around you, you're not in the moment. You're not living where you are. You're not seeing the opportunities that you might miss. You know, should you get off that hamster wheel? So I had to learn that. And when you're living in scarcity, you're always on the tip of your emotions. It's like, okay, I need to pay that bill. Right. When I get a bill, I'd be like, okay, I know that I'm closing in this house. They gonna have to wait. And guess what I do? I call them up and say, you're gonna have to wait. Because if we don't, the Bible says, speak those things as though they
were. Yes, as though they are, or as though they were. Yep, that's right. Yep.
That's it. So if I want something, I gotta speak it. I can't be wishy-washy. It's either I believe this or I don't believe it.
Right.
So it's gotta be all it is a decision. Now, yes, there are intergenerational things that happen regarding scarcity. Yes, there is. There's a lot of that goes on. And you have to learn to sit with yourself in order to change that. That's really a good thing to do, is learn to sit with yourself. With scarcity, to switch into abundance, what I work with my clients is learning to switch from being scared, because it's fear. It's all it is fear-based. But here's fear. Fear only comes about when you're doing something you've never done before.
Right. Right. I mean, the word scarcity has scared in it.
Yeah. That's it. You're just doing something that you've never done before. So whenever I get scared, I push straight to it. I push into it. I just lean into it, because I was like, okay, this is going to be a great experience. This is going to be a great experience. I was just telling somebody the other day, when I went to China, I was one of the two oldest, I use this loosely, oldest English teachers there, okay? And the young people were like, we walked the wall. So, it was like 110 degrees, but I was like intending on getting a full experience. And so we get to the top, and he's like, I said, I want to, what do you call that when you go down the rope, go down the, what do you call that when you get on this rope and you go all the way, zip line? I wanted to zip line down. And I was like, who wants to go with me? They were like, what? I was like, what? So I was excited, like, okay, this is something I'm gonna enjoy. And I zip lined down. Now, if I would have avoided that whole thing, I zip lined down the Great Wall of China. all the way back to the beginning. They had to walk all the way down. Okay. And I was like, aha, I beat you. But it was an experience that I will never forget. What did that give me? Step into my fears. Step into them. Step into them. Just step. Yep. I didn't say run into them. I said, just step, lean in. Once you lean in, the universe takes over. Okay, you leaned in. Think of fear as this glowing ball, right, of energy that you want to get to, right? And it's glowing. And you get scared. And you're like, okay, here's a perfect example. Home Depot contacted me because they wanted me to be their coach for one of their branches. So immediately I got scared. I was like, oh gosh, I gotta make sure this is perfect. I'm panicking. I am panicking, right? Because this is a major company that could make or break me, right? Oh gosh, I gotta get this PowerPoint together. I don't know if they're gonna like what I'm gonna say. Should I switch it around to something else? And right then and there, I stopped and I leaned in. This is what they're gonna get. You know, I'm not changing any words. Right. This is what I teach about because I teach about generational trauma and stress. This is what they're gonna get. The training director loved it so much. She said, I definitely have to keep you on rotation. So if I was afraid and let fear take over me, I wouldn't have walked into this vibrating, glowing ball of information that would have taken me to another level. You have to lean in. I just, from scarcity, it's when you don't have any idea of the unknown, right? And you really like Vera said, you're scared. Yep. You lean in even more. You lean in. Now, I know Vera got questions for me. I'm going to stop right here. And if you guys have any questions, then I can go to do whatever you guys want.
Well, I just had a few. Transitioning from being an employee, because Starlett and I spoke about that earlier, to becoming an entrepreneur. That was, I'm sure, scary, especially when you had a certain, income level. Sure. What you already kind of really told us the answer to that question. You lean into it, but in between that transition time period, how did you find yourself being able to stay encouraged and not let the fear overwhelm you?
Well, when I was moving out of the human services field to becoming a real estate broker. So I stayed in real estate like as an agent for 1 year. Then I said, oh, heck with this, I can do it myself. And the next year I did it myself. So it's like, it wasn't hard for me to transition into that, but I know what you mean. When you start to do this, you get scared because how am I going to pay my bills? Well, right. I had a strategy plan. Everything's a plan. You just don't move to the next thing without a plan. Like you don't move into a relationship without a plan. You don't move into a house without a plan. Everything has a plan. So when I decided that I was going to go out on my own and do my own business, okay, what's my plan? What am I going to do in 3 months? How am I going to get there? And I thought, hey, I need agents. I'm not doing this by myself.
There you go. Yep. Starlett said the same thing. Let's collaborate.
Yeah. So I need somebody else to help me out. So what I did was built a team. So who did I need in this team to make my business work? That's the number one thing you first do is build an entire team. I need a real estate attorney. I need a title company. I'm making connections before I get to that part that I'm stepping out. Why? Because then once I get there, everything's working. I needed to make the connections. And the second part of my business was, I had sales and rentals. How am I going to make this work? Well, I went to all the agencies that I knew, federal government agencies, and talked to the head people, had lunch with them to make it work. I'm going to be that person that you're going to come to with the right clients. That's going to be good for, and you have these programs, I'm going to know how to do it. I learned how to work the programs better than anybody in Suffolk County. I learned because I sat with the people that created the program. So I wanted to make it work. All right. You have to do things like that. Create a strategy so that it works when you do transition out. The third thing is to have a plan, right? What is it, 1 or 2? I'm number 1 or 2. Which one? 3?
You're number 3.
The
The first one was have a plan. The second one is build a team. And what's number 3?
Okay. So number 3 is, now you made me forget because you're gonna got me mixed up. But the third one is to really. I'm only kidding. The third one is to now what is it that I want to do? How will I want it to look? Right? How would I want that to look? So I started to think I don't want to be a worker because I don't work enough. I'm gonna tell y'all the truth. Worked enough. I wanted to be the CEO of the business. Great. So you got to decide right there. Am I running the business or is it running me? Before you start, don't just start into business. You're going to do it by yourself, right? Even in transitioning to my coaching and motivational speaking business, I had to get a team. So if any of your people are, I tell anybody that are coaches themselves, get interns, get somebody to do the work you don't need to do. Get them. They're here for you. And I have a team of now almost five people now, answering emails, doing my website, all the stuff that I don't need to do. Mm-hmm. What do I need to do? I need to be acting like the CEO, talking to other CEOs on how to collaborate, make business. That's what I need to be doing.
Right.
So make sure you're asking yourself that very important question. Do I run the business and be a CEO, or do I want the business to run me? Most of the time, people end up running their business and it runs them crazy.
Right,
and then you suffer. You get burnout, and then you don't know what to do. And guess what they do? They go back to work.
Right. They go back to the 9 to 5. Right. Mm-hmm. Yep. Absolutely.
Yep.
So, you've explored how to get from that scarcity to abundance mindset. And that's what we need. And I thank you so very much. Thank you. If you stay on for a little bit, maybe there'll be some people with some questions afterwards. So I'm going to, ask Lima. Lima, are you ready? Are you there? Hey, there she goes.
Hi, how are you?
I am doing well. How are you doing today?
I'm good, thank you.
Good. Everyone, welcome Lima McClean. She's a real estate investor. She's a real estate consultant. She's an entrepreneur. She's an online event planner. I don't even know anything else that I can tell you, except for she's a wonderful person. And I'm so honored to have her on my webinar today, on the summit for us today. Can you unmute yourself, please? There you go. And so we would just want a little bit of a background from where you came from, Lima, to where you are now. Could you give our listeners that, please?
Yes, I I'm originally from South Carolina, and I moved to New Jersey with my parents like years ago. My son was sick. My son had multiple brain surgeries, in and out of the hospital, and I needed support. So I was teaching school at the time, and I kept getting threats from the school that I was going to lose my job because I was in and out of the hospital. And so that's how I ended up leaving the school district and going into real estate investing.
Wonderful. Yeah, I think your call as a mother was trumping your call as a teacher.
Yes. Yes.
That's good. And so how did you get started in this crazy real estate game that you're in? Or that you were in? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, with my son having brain surgery after brain surgery, I had to figure out something. And so I was just praying and asking God, like, what can I do? Because I need to have a lot of money. Like, I have to take care of this baby. And I was like, so I really need you to show me what to do. And I just, focused in, just like Edna said, I leaned into that. I just, I prayed, I just made sure that I was just hearing God, and I kept hearing real estate. Back in that time, there was Carlton Sheets. I don't know if you remember, but
Right.
that infomercial used to come on all the time. And I
At
would
3 o'clock in the
watch it, and I
morning.
was like, yeah, I was like, why is this on? Like, and I would see it over and over. And I started to read more books about real estate investing. I'm like, wait a minute, so real estate? And so that's what I did. I bought the Carlton Sheets course,
Uh-huh.
and that's how I got started into real estate. I took that 6 months to a year, and I just poured in. I dove in. I just kept studying, and I remember I was so afraid. My first deal, I was like, you know what, I have to do it. I can't just, have this information sitting here. I'm just gonna, have it under my belt and not do anything with it. And there was a house across the street from my parents' house. And I put an offer in. It was listed with a realtor. And I approached the realtor as a real estate investor, as a seasoned investor. I didn't tell him that I was new, and I put the offer in. And then I got that contract, and then I did my first wholesale deal. And I remember I screwed the deal up. It was so bad, but I was supposed to make a $5,000 assignment fee, but I ended up making $2,400. And I was like, what? This is really happening. So I went, I took the check home. I showed my mom, and I was like, look at what just happened. And this is what's happening with everything that I've been studying. Now I'm doing it. So I went to the Board of Education. I quit my job with the school, and I never went back. And that's how I got started in real estate investing. I just did deal after deal after deal. And within that year, everything just blew up. I had, 2 offices. And I just, I had millions of dollars in real estate. And it was, I was just like, wow.
You were you amazed. You had amazed yourself what God had provided for you. You're like, wow, this really happened. Yeah.
But it was like what Edna said though earlier, because what happened when I was on a journey, just like what Edna was saying, where I had created a vision board. I had a house on there. I had, how much money I wanted in my account, like all of that. I had a huge board, and it was posted in my room. And I remember just praying, about all of it. And funny enough, too, through my real estate investing, I ended up buying the house that was on the board, but I didn't realize it until later.
Okay.
I moved into the house, and I got that house from a pastor. He approached me and told me, I want you to buy this house. I want you to live in it. It wouldn't sell on the market for some reason. And so I walked into that house with over $200,000 in equity because
Wow.
of that. And that was the same house. Later on, I looked at that board. It was the same exact house. And that's why the power of intention, and like Edna was saying, really just, leaning in, and I just stayed focused, and those things just started to happen. It really is. So yeah, it's amazing.
It is amazing. It is amazing. So now,
Yeah.
my understanding is you're doing consulting work, or you're doing a lot of consulting work and doing a lot of event planning. So how did you kind of transition from, I know you're still doing investing, but not maybe at the level that you were doing before. How did you kind of grow and develop a consulting business? And how did that go from scarcity to abundance?
Well, I'm happy that you asked me that. That's a great question. And again, referring back to Edna, because everything she said is so true for me personally. I know that it works because I lost everything in 2008, and I had a horrible experience. I was going through a divorce. I had lawsuit after lawsuit. I was arrested. It was crazy. I lost everything. And
Now that's real scarcity.
yeah. So, and I was, like I said, arrested, and I was just like, God, what happened? you know, what is going on? I know this is what I'm supposed to be doing. I know that this is where I'm supposed to be, but what is going on here? And I just had to do it again. I was afraid, but I had to lean into, like Edna said again, into that, and the fear, and just say, you know what, I'm still gonna do the same thing I did before. It's just a different situation. So I started all over again. I came from scarcity of having nothing. I started all over again. And what I did is similar to what Edna did. I told myself I didn't look at how much money I wanted to make every year. Like everyone says, oh, I want to make $1 million a year. I said, you know, how much money am I going to make every day? So it's like I started saying to myself, I'm going to make $100 per day. And that's what I started to do. I started to look around for different ways and ideas of making $100 per day. And then it started to happen really quickly. And this time things happened even faster because I had a tunnel vision. I had done this before. I know that it worked. You know, I prayed about it and I was like, you know, I'm going for it. So then I said, I'm going to make $200 a day, 300. And then I just kept getting ideas and inspiration all the time, opportunities coming to me all the time. But you have to be open to see the opportunities when they come. Like if something's happened, you have to be aware and you have to have that, you have to be conscious of what's happening around you. So even now, when I see an opportunity, I'll jump on it. Like if it's an opportunity for me to increase my income or to get into, you know, some type of collaboration, I will do it. But sometimes people can't see the opportunities because they're just so focused on whatever they've been doing in the past or whatever the experience that they're having. Maybe it's a traumatizing experience, but you have to stay focused on what your vision is. Once you have that vision, stay focused on that. And then everything else will just start to fall, you know, to the wayside. And that's how I got into the events. and that instead of me doing the 100 a day, it went up to thousands per day. And I was just like, you know what, this still works and it's gonna keep working. I've been doing it. I did it with my son, with the brain surgeries. I taught him how to walk, crawl, all of that. So it works. It really does. So that's how I came from scarcity to abundance. I've done that, you know, a few times in my life. So, and it really works.
You truly have. You truly have. And I think I just want people to realize fear is false evidence appearing real. And
Yes.
that really does put people, it paralyzes people. You know, I mean, it's happened to me before. You know, it's like, okay, I think I want to do this, but then I get scared and then I start over analyzing it. And then it stops me from moving forward. So I think to get from that scarcity mindset to the abundance mindset is, you know, just really leaning into your fear and overcoming that and just keeping yourself focused. That's great information as well. And so now that, and how is your son, by the way? Has he progressed to a place where he's somewhat independent after all of the health issues that he's had?
Yeah, definitely. Because when I took him home, the doctor said, "Oh, he's gonna die or he's gonna be a vegetable," and I just refused to believe that.
Okay.
So I took him home and I took him home on oxygen. I started working with him and breathing into his little mouth so that his lungs could get stronger. And at this time, I didn't even know what I was doing. I knew I was being led by the Holy Spirit at that time, but I didn't know what I was doing. I started to hold his little hands around the bottle, and eventually he started holding it. I started to roll his body over back and forth. I studied the brain, everything about the brain and how it works. Because that's another thing. When you're doing something, you have to actually get that information to a lot of people. You think you can just imagine stuff and you think you can just go out and say, oh, I want this house, or I want this car, but you have to get the education. And then you start to apply that. So it wasn't like it just happened magically. It does happen, but you do have to educate yourself. So I learned everything about the brain. And then I started working with him where babies would do these things naturally. I progressed with him in that same flow. but I recreated neural pathways in his brain by doing these activities with him. And he went to high school. He graduated when he was 21 in the special education program.
Nice.
He's 26 now. And he doesn't, have a conversation like you and I, but he's doing well. He's not a vegetable. He walks around. He does everything on his own. And if I had listened to the doctors, he wouldn't even be here.
Right.
So, and
Right.
that's why I say, you really have to have a vision. You have to, when God gives you a vision, you're asking, you praying all the time, and he gives you the vision, then you go for it and you stick to it. And then those things will happen. They happen to me all the time. Every day I have a life filled with miracles because of this way of being.
Wow, that's a great story. It's wonderful to hear how your son is doing well. That is really good. That is really, really good. So,
Yeah.
what would you tell people besides what you've already told them? Besides the, visualizing it, getting focused and getting educated about it. What would you tell them to kind of get them started on doing anything, whether it's a business or anything in life? Because you actually transformed your son's whole life by just doing what you did. What's kind of the first step?
I'm glad you said that too, because that's why my new book that I wrote, it's called Mindset Shift.
Oh,
Your
wow,
thoughts
great.
become your reality. It's going to be coming out, and I'm doing a workbook with it, and it's going to be a class. I did that because of like with the consulting, and I teach the real estate classes. It's a mindset issue. Like really, like when the doctor said your son is going to be a vegetable, he's going to die and all that, like immediately I went into like my mind. I'm like, no, it's like, you have to be able to have that shift in your thinking. And that happened with me through the word of God, so I had that shift and I was like, no, that's not what God says. That's not the promises that he told me that I have. And during that time, babies were dying all around us every day in that same intensive care unit. He was there for 3 months, but I just refused to believe that he was going to die. And he didn't. He's still here and he's healthy. He's never had a brain surgery in years. And I use that with everything. You have to have that transformation in your thinking, starting with that first.
Okay.
And when you do that, then everything else, will follow.
Wow, fantastic. Oh, that's so good. That's so good. Yeah, because I know, a lot of people kind of really suffered a lot during the whole COVID experience. So what will you say to those people that, really really had some hard times with that, and hopefully many of them are listening in, and they've maybe transformed their situation. But how about those that are still kind of wallowing in their bad times? What do you say to them that, oh, woe is me, that kind of thing?
I would say, that a lot of times we're not looking at really that we should be thankful, because I stay in a posture of thankfulness every day. And I remember when COVID was out, people were dying everywhere, and everyone was getting COVID. And I was just like, wow. I had even gotten sick at that time. And I remember it was about 2 weeks I was in my house. I couldn't even go up and down my staircase. Literally, I couldn't even, it was hard to breathe. Like my chest was like hurting. And I'm like, what's happening with me? And I was like, I hope I don't have this COVID. And it got so bad that I was in the bed for like 2.5 weeks. And I was praying then to God. I still was leaning into God again. And I was like, look, something is going on with me. And I even felt like my body, like lifting, I don't know, some kind of way. And I was like, wait a minute. I was like, Father, I was like, don't let me, die like this. I was like, I want to raise my children. I want to be here for my grandchildren. I want to do everything that you said that I can do. I said, if it's not my time, let me live. And I remember just saying that prayer, and then I let go after that. And so I just said, I thank you for, hearing my prayer, and I thank you for answering my prayer. And so my sisters, against my will, called the ambulance for me to go to the hospital.
You were scared
And they
you
were
wanted to
knocking at the door.
die.
I was like, who is it at the door? But I couldn't go answer it. So they my daughter ended up opening the door and the ambulance was there. And I was like, who called the ambulance? I didn't tell you to call the ambulance. So the ambulance came and said, we're taking you to the hospital. Now I was like, I'm not going to the hospital. And so my sister was on the phone. She's like, get up and go now. And so I went to the hospital and I stayed in there for like a week and a half. It was so funny because I was like, my body was like doing some weird stuff in there. And I was like, what is going on? I was closed off in a room by myself, and the doctors were all nice. And I was just like, what is going on with my body? I didn't know at the time. So when I was released, I went home and I was doing well. And I was just like walking up and down the staircase, doing my breathing exercises, you know, to strengthen my lungs again, all the stuff I needed to do to get myself back in order. And the nurses were coming out to the house, and this is what happened. And this is why I say with COVID and anything else in life, I had one nurse that came out to the house. She was like, oh, you're doing great. Took my vitals and everything. The second time, it was another nurse that came out. And so I answered the door when she knocked, and I opened the door. She was like, oh, I'm here to see Lima. And I'm like, okay, this is Lima. I'm Lima. You can come in. She was like, you're Lima? I was like, yes. She was like, what are you doing? You're answering the door. I was like, I said, yeah. I was like, come on in. And she was like, I just want to tell you something. She was like, I thought you were going to be like in worse shape than what you are now, or even possibly dying. I said, why do you say that? She was like, did you read your chart? She said, your body was shutting down. She was like, the doctors didn't tell you that you were literally dying. Your body, your vitals, your everything was shutting down. And I was like, wait a minute, that's what I was going through that experience at the hospital. She was like, you were literally dying. She was like, even all of my clients that I had that had COVID, all of them died and they were better off than you. And
Wow.
she said, you were supposed to be dead. And I was like, what? She was like, here, read it. And then I said, you know what, God, you answered my prayer again. I said, I asked you to let me live and you let me live. And I was like, so whatever, I don't care what it is, COVID, anything, nothing's going to stop me. I'm going to live my best life. I'm going to have the promises that God said that I have. I'm going to help people and I'm going to do what I'm supposed to do with my life. And I've been doing that. So, you know, when you have to be thankful. You have to be grateful. Mm-hmm. And that's what I do. Stay in that posture every day. It doesn't matter how it looks. And then things will start to turn around.
Okay. That's real good advice, because I think so many times people get very discouraged by the first thing that, you know, the first obstacle that they run into. It's like, oh, what was me? I can't move beyond this. And they don't see the next place that, you know, God has taken them to. And, you know, it's a shame, because if they kind of hang in there just a little bit, it might just turn around and have a better result, the result that it is that you're hoping for. So, wow, thank you so much. So, I think that we should take a break. But before we take that break, Lima, please tell everyone how they can get in touch with you, because I have one other speaker, Danielle Ralston, and I'm hoping that she'll come in during the break time. So, how can people reach out to you, Lima?
You can reach out to me on Facebook. I'm there. You can DM me, and you can book a call with me. I have a link there. And I would love to talk to you, and see where you are in your business, you know, see, you know, where it is you, what your vision is, and, you know, just get on a free call with you. So go to Facebook, and, you know, book a call with me and we can go from there.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you so very much for taking the time to be here. And like I said, we'll take a 10-minute break and hope that in between time, Danielle jumps on. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.